Hey guys, how are you doing? And welcome back to another income report video for May. So in this video, I'll be showing my royalties made selling low and medium content books on Amazon KDP, and I'll compare that to the May last year in 2023. I'll also be sharing my plans for this month in June and how much I spent on advertising and other expenses. Since several months have already been lower this year for me than last year, which was quite extraordinarily high by comparison to other years, I did expect this May to be lower as well, and it was lower. But that said, the start of the month was really very high, and I was thinking it might even exceed the previous year for a while. But then the second half of the month dropped significantly, and I made a lot less in the second half of May after that. So that brought it down overall. Looking at the books that sold, I'm not really sure why that is. The most obvious thing would be that Mother's Day falls in May in the US, but the books that I sold don't really correlate with that. One of the books that sold the most was a notebook, which has just sold a lot recently, and it sold a lot again at the start of May. Ad spend was fairly high again this month, and during the second half of the month I did go in and try and reduce that ad spend due to the overall drop in royalties and in preparation for the next few months where sales do tend to be lower for me. Obviously it completely depends what kind of books you have and what niches you're in, but for me, generally the summer months are lower, and that is the case for a lot of people on KDP as well, because people perhaps are more busy going abroad on vacations, holidays and whatever. If you're in the back to school niche, or maybe you've got a lot of summer related journals or something, then you might have higher months. But I know some people do have the highest month in August, for example, but generally so far that hasn't been the case for me. So I have been reducing some of my ad spend this month. So I did start really focusing on trying to create and publish books again in May. I published 2 books in May, but one was actually kicked back because I forgot to tick the low content book box. So do remember to do that. So that book was actually published at the start of June. But I'm going to aim to have at least 5 books published in June. And if there are more than that, then great. But it does feel good to have that goal again of actually publishing a certain amount and getting back into publishing books again regularly. The reason that I'm aiming for 5 is that most of the books I do tend to have quite a few elements in them, and so take a bit of time. And in addition to that, I need to create all the A+ content and also all the book listings. Okay, so now I'm just going to go onto the different ad platforms and briefly show you what I spent on ads this month. This is the US platform, so I spent $298 there, and the ACOS was 27%. The average CPC was 39 cents, so that was quite high actually for me, and it was a little bit high with the ACOS, but not too bad. So in the UK, I spent the most last month than on any other ad platform. I spent over £500, and the ACOS was also quite high at 33%. And the CPC actually wasn't that bad at 25 pence. The reason why it was so high was I was doing an experiment on a different type of ad. And because my general sales tend to go down in the summer months, I worked hard at the end of this month to reduce some of my ad spend, and hopefully that will improve. So in Canada, I spent $43, not very much at all. The ACOS was 26%. And finally in Australia, I spent $81, and the ACOS was only 21% with nearly $400 worth of sales, so that was good. The CPC was 32 cents, but that's in Australian. It's actually 20-something cents in the US. So the total ad spend then across all platforms was $1,037. So just bear in mind that I have been running ads now for several years. I certainly didn't start off spending, $1,000 a month on advertising. So I think when I very first started, I spent under $100 in a month, and then gradually over time that's gone up. But it's gone up considerably this year. But don't feel that you have to spend this sort of money to get sales. You definitely don't. If you've never run ads before, just start slowly and go very gradually. Most of my sales are organic and don't come from advertising, so it's actually only a small percentage that come from ads. Obviously you can't know 100% because some of the organic sales are going to be due to the fact that you run ads in the first place, but definitely a lot of my sales are organic as well. So as far as other expenses go on top of the advertising, they come to around $137 a month at the moment, and I have the tools that I use linked in the description. So this year I made $8,379 before expenses and ad spend in May. And as you can see, the first half of the month was a lot higher than the second half of the month. And I've got no idea why at all. Last May was quite a bit higher, but last May was also a bit of an anomaly. Anonymous, you know what I mean. And yeah, it was all over the place. So I will show you the May of the previous year as well in a second. And also, for a bit more context, you can look at May 2022 as well, because that was lower than the previous one. So it seems like May is quite an unpredictable month for me, but nevertheless, it was still a very good month. That was May last year, where I made 9,600, and I definitely spent a lot less on ads as well, so it was quite a bit higher. And then May 2022, I made $6,500. I also had a really high day here at the end of May, which was over $1,000, and the previous May, I'd also had this one day where I made over $1,000 right at the start. But yeah, so that was two different Mays where I had a really high day. I think the most surprising thing this month was that the highest seller this month was a notebook. It's the same notebook that's been selling very well for months now, and it continues to do so. And I have said in previous videos, I think it's down to being linked with some other products that are high selling, and it's in a kind of gift bundle. So I think that's why it seems to do well. So the profit in May then was the 8,379 total royalties minus the ad spend and expenses, which comes to 7,205. Do let me know how your May was in the comments and how things are going for you in general in KDP, whether you are expecting to have a few lower months now, and if you have any goals as far as publishing books go. So that's all for today, but thank you very much for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and I will speak to you again very soon.